Hey there, and welcome to your GG Replay for Monday, September 6th, 2021. GG Replay is a Monday, Wednesday, Friday show where we break down the latest in gaming news, hosted by us, the Goodnight Groofs, a place for games and a place for goofs. We're workshopping the slogan, but my name is Paul, and I am joined on this beautiful holiday Monday by Matt. How are you doing on this day, Matt?
I'm doing swell, Paul. It is Labor Day here. I know it's Labor Day up there.
It is Labor Day in Canada and Labor Day in the US and nowhere else in the world. They all do it in May.
Yeah, so, happy Labor Day to you, Paul. It's a
happy Labor Day to you as well.
It's a beautiful day today in the neighborhood. Did you watch Mr. Rogers growing up?
You know what? Here's the thing. We had this guy in Canada, Ernie Coombs, Mr. Dress Up, and he kind of did, like, we had Mr. Rogers, obviously, like, it played here, but there was this guy, Mr. Dress Up, and he was kind of the Canadian Mr. Rogers, and he did a lot of the same kind of stuff.
Okay.
And so that was a little bit more popular, so I watched that growing up. I really wish I'd watched Mr. Rogers growing up, though, because Mr. Rogers, I think, like, the lessons and things were a lot more important, whereas the Mr. Dress Up stuff was just a little goofier. So now I kind of like I really like all those like Mr. Rogers documentaries and stuff now and the podcast, because I think it's so fascinating. Like, what an interesting guy. But not really. Did you watch Mr. Rogers?
I did. I watched Mr. Rogers. I wouldn't say I watched a lot. I wasn't like it wasn't like my favorite show as a kid.
Yeah.
But I did watch a lot of Mr. Rogers. My favorite part was like the live action, like, with humans. I didn't really like when they did the puppet stuff. I
hated the puppet stuff. That threw me off. All the King Friday and stuff. That wasn't my favorite. But anyway, this is a gaming podcast that is amazing. And it is called GG Replay. And we are here to talk about gaming news. And you might say the gaming news, it's a holiday and it was just the weekend. Well, you know what? The gaming news stops for no one. Also, Europe, they're having a normal day over in Europe and most of the world. So there's lots to talk about today. And we are going to get right into it. But first, I just have to remind you that if you come across any necessary corrections in today's episode, send them to ggreplayshow@gmail.com or head down to the YouTube comments below so we can address them in the next episode. We do make mistakes. We are not infallible. And it's a holiday, so I'm like mentally check the fuck out. No, I'm kidding.
It seems like we are perfect, so I don't know. There haven't been a whole lot.
Yeah, hasn't been a lot. According to the people listening, none. No one's corrected us. So I don't know. Either you're all disbelieving us, fact check us. Fact check us. We may not be always. I think we're telling the truth. We try to fact check. All right, moving on, Matt. The review is in. Just one review today that we're going through. Fist. Forged in Shadow Torch. It is a 2.5D Metrovania style game. Got an 83 on OpenCritic, and it is out tomorrow on Tuesday. This game looks awesome. They showed this off a lot. I think it was at the State of Play event earlier this year, right? In June or something. When I remember we saw a lot of Fist stuff. I mean, we've saw it before, but that was pretty cool. Combat looks awesome. It's anthropomorphic animals, but I think it's rare I've seen like a 2.5D Metrovania that really has that kind of like
Metroidvania. Don't get the Metroid fans up in a tizzy.
What did I say? Metrovania?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why. That's weird. Metroidvania. I feel like I haven't seen a 2.5D one with like the forced perspective before. I feel like most of them are a little flatter than this looks. Like I don't know. It was interesting.
I agree.
What do you think, Matt? I like the style.
Yeah, I kind of like the style as well. I kind of like this like the dark and gritty anthropomorphic animals, almost like steampunk style. It's kind of cool. Like you said, the combat does look good. It looks satisfying. I will say, I was watching one review and they were talking about how you only have melee abilities and some enemies do have ranged abilities, which can make combat a little bit clunky at times. And
I think we watched the same review video.
Okay.
I saw that.
Shout out to Noisy Pixel.
Noisy Pixel. I usually watch Noisy Pixel videos to kind of like give me a little jump for this show when we just kind of skim review videos. They have very concise videos for that. So
yeah, they're growing a ton too. So shout out to them. That's awesome.
Yeah, very cool.
And I watched the trailer too, and like the launch trailer.
Yep.
Platforming actually looks pretty solid. I was a little bit worried about that, but they have various challenging platforming segments, it looks like, which look pretty good. Looks like it has an actual story, which is kind of cool. I will say though, the voice acting sounded rather a bit rough, and the localized English dialogue doesn't
Yeah.
seem fantastic. Doesn't seem
Yeah.
that great.
It seems like they did a good job with it, but it's not like gonna blow anyone away. It's a little stunted, a little janky.
I don't think that this is going to be a game that I purchase, but if it ever
Same.
comes to PS Plus, which I'll be shocked if it doesn't sometime the next year, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, this feels like obviously it's a Sony kind of game. It feels like a Game Pass game though, something that would be like day one Game Pass. Reminds me a lot of like The Ascent or something like that. I know it's not the same type of game, but that style and everything. I think that overall it looks pretty cool. But yeah, it's not something I would buy either. It's definitely something I'd play for free if it came up. If it becomes like an Epic Store game of the month or whatever, one of those kind of things, I would definitely play. Overall, I'm glad it did well. It's cool to see some different games like this, and anthropomorphic, gritty animals seems to be popular right now. I saw a bunch of games on Game Pass. One called like Backbone, and there were some other ones too that look like noir animals.
Okay,
like,
that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
and then we had Biomutant recently.
Yeah.
The similar feel, like aesthetically, with Biomutant in this game.
Yep, I agree.
A little more colorful in Biomutant, but like the mechanical stuff, same kind of style.
Yeah, totally agree. Moving on, let's talk about the top stories of the day because we have stuff to talk about. Well, first off, Matt, I tried to trip you up on Friday to talk about your wonderful Sony, who kind of made a bit of an error coming out here and saying that they were going to not allow you to upgrade Horizon, what is it called? Forbidden West.
Yeah.
Horizon Forbidden West to PS5. You were going to, if you bought the PS4 version, you were going to have to go out and buy the full PS5 version to be able to play it on PS5 later. They have, of course, reversed the course. Horizon Forbidden West will allow you to upgrade from the PS4 version. And actually, because of this, they're going to make it a free upgrade. Now, I kind of thought they might do something like this on the reverse. I thought that would be the cool move because, just making it the same as every other game, I don't know, it doesn't really sit right considering they went at it in such a way. I mean, obviously, I think it wouldn't be a big deal. I'd rather they just make it a $10 thing than leaving it the way they did. But I figured they'd probably do something like this where they throw in like a free upgrade, right? And moving forward, they have said all first-party Sony games will have a $10 upgrade path from PS4 to PS5, including the God of War sequel, Gran Turismo 7, and any of their cross-gen titles. I think that makes total sense. I mean, yeah, it seems totally fair. $10, that seems like the right amount of money. But kind of weird because there's a free upgrade to the PS5 version of Horizon Forbidden West. So can you just buy the PS4 version and get a free upgrade? Why would anyone buy the PS5 version? Matt, as someone who owns the PS5, are you going to be out here buying the PS5 version of Horizon Forbidden West?
So if it's $70, no. But because there would be no point if it's a free upgrade. But I do think that they're just going to end up selling the PS5 version for $60 as well. I think they're going to break the tradition for that one game in this specific scenario, because I do think numbers wise they probably internally want to sell PS5 copies of the game.
Of course.
And obviously if it's $70, they're not going to sell any. I mean, they'll sell some from people who just aren't paying attention, but they might as well just make it $60 so they can sell native PS5 copies. And I think that's probably what they'll end up doing. But I mean, going forward, I'm really happy that they reversed course on this. The $10 upgrade makes sense to me. I know there are going to be a lot of people that are saying, well, it should be free. Xbox has the smart delivery and stuff. But I keep coming back to this. I think people overlook this. Like with Xbox, they don't have to have separate development for their controller. Like the PS5 with the DualSense, that adds a lot to the game. And a lot of development time needs to go into crafting the way that the controller works within the foundation of the game. And I think that extra $10, when you're paying $70 for a PS5 game, or whether you're upgrading it from the PS4 version that was $60, you're essentially paying the $10 for the DualSense features. You're obviously getting visual upgrades and stuff like that as well. But yeah, Xbox does that for free. I get that. But Xbox doesn't have the DualSense. And I do think that is a differentiating factor.
I don't know if that's enough of a differentiating factor, though. $10 for every sale, that adds up a ton, considering I really don't feel like DualSense development costs that much more than not doing DualSense development. Now, I don't know anything. I'm just saying, I feel like this is more, games are just getting more expensive. It's a new gen.
Yeah, I
This
think
makes
that's
sense
mostly
to,
it.
it makes sense to, we're having these quadruple A games now that cost more than movies to make. I get wanting to up the price $10 just across gens. I mean, you're already kind of seeing that on Xbox too. It's, a lot of the times it's like smart delivery price, you're still kind of paying, I think, the price for like the next gen one, and it just kind of goes backward forward, I think,
Right.
sometimes. So I think it's yet to be decided how that's going to work with smart delivery. I think that's a little bit nebulous, but I will say DualSense, I agree with you. DualSense adds stuff, and depending on the game, that can be utilized in a way. But I think it's more just, it needs to go up $10 for the next gen. Games cost a ton to make. I get it. I think it's a fair price, $10 upgrade. I'm certainly not complaining if I bought a PS4 game and they go, hey, it's only $10 and you can upgrade it to, have 4K and all this other stuff on your PS5 and, some new features on your controller. Sure. Why the heck not? I get it. It makes sense to me. And it's not like they ever said you can't play PS4 versions on a PS5, right? It just won't have it won't have the upgraded features, right?
Correct. Yeah, you can play your PS4 version on your PS5.
So there is something, like, I mean, they're not like forcing you to pay $10 to play the game on your PS5, right? I mean, they're just saying, hey,
True.
if you want some extra stuff that we put in here, this is what we think it is worth, and this is what we're charging for it. I think it's pretty fair.
True. I think it's fair too. Obviously, we all would love if it were free, and that would obviously be the most pro-consumer thing. But at the same time, they have to make money, and it's just kind of part of the deal. Like, prices have gone up. Video games haven't really gone up. I mean, games have been $60 for like 20 years.
Yep.
Which is crazy. Think of how movie prices, like movie tickets, have changed at that time. Yeah. And I saw someone bring up a good point. I don't remember if I saw this on Twitter or Reddit or whatever, but someone brought up a pretty good point. Like, when you're buying a Blu-ray and a DVD, there's a difference in the cost, right?
Definitely.
And it's only a visual upgrade. But there's a difference in the cost, or what is it, Ultra HD or something like that, that they have now. Is that a new thing?
That's Blu-ray, but that's what they call, like, Ultra HD is like a marketing term that they use for 4K, basically.
Okay.
UHD. So yeah.
When you're buying a standard Blu-ray, I guess the 1080 Blu-ray versus Ultra HD, there's a price difference there.
There is a price difference. People pay more for higher quality content. It costs more to run those cameras, to upsize the remaster. It costs more, and it is more, and I think it's fair that it's worth more than the other way around. I think that's just natural. I think that's our system. That's capitalism, baby. I think it just makes total sense. I was going to say too, as a Canadian, I mean, I've been seeing prices go up a lot over the last decade, actually, because while games have stayed $60, our dollar has fluctuated. So, like, for me, in like 2014 was when we really were last around parity, dollar to dollar. Games were $60, and then as the dollar dropped, our games up to $70, and then $80. And now, with these new upgraded games, our games are probably going to go up to $90, because not only the dollar, but then also the upgraded games. So, it's pretty wild. We're seeing, in Canada, games are getting more and more expensive all the time, because of, our own purposes. And even I'm saying, you know what, I think $10 more for next gen just makes sense. These things are huge games. And you know what, if you don't want to buy the newest single player game the day it comes out, I think that's pretty normal. You don't have to, there's so many games out now. I don't rush out to pay $100 to buy, like, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut when it comes out, even though that looks like a game I want to play. I'll probably wait for it to go on sale at some point. That's fine. There's a lot to play.
I think it would be really good if Sony gets to a point where they introduce their first-party games to PS Now day one. I don't know if that's something that they would be interested in doing, at least not yet. Maybe when Game Pass starts getting more ground and then they need to do that sort of thing, they might do that. But I think that would also help alleviate some of the issues that people have with these upgrade costs.
I agree. I think that makes sense. And I think that's something like again, you see on Game Pass so much, all the first party Microsoft games. Of course, there's a lot less in terms of quality there at this point. But still, first party Microsoft games coming out day one on Game Pass is pretty awesome for someone like me who doesn't typically go buy a $100 game when it comes out. But I'll play it day one on Game Pass, and I'll keep paying them every month, like, $15. So there's different delivery methods. I think we're seeing a lot of that. But I think $10, and end of the day, totally reasonable. Glad to see Sony did the right thing.
Agreed.
All right, moving on to some game news because we have a bunch of game rumors today. First off, we have an Alan Wake remaster might be announced next week. According to Daniel Ahmad on Twitter, it may be launching on October 5th and might be one of the free PS Plus games that month, according to a possible retail store leak. Now, this is very, very interesting. Not only could we get a new Alan Wake remaster, but also it could like basically shadow drop. Like we could be, I'm not shadow drop, but like come out like 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the announcement. That's pretty shocking.
Yeah.
Matt, do you feel like there's any credence to this? Does this seem like something we might actually get?
Daniel Ahmad was incredibly confident on Twitter about this, and I would say that he's a deep insider when it comes to video games and in the industry. So I think absolutely, based on what he's saying, we are definitely getting an Alan Wake remaster announced next week. Now, is it gonna launch on October 5th? He didn't mention anything about that. This comes from the online store leak. Is it coming to PS Plus? I don't know. Maybe that's a hopeful thinking leak. I don't know.
That's a pretty wild one to see it come out, and then be like day one PS Plus is pretty wild.
Now, it would make sense. Like, it would be a good October game, spooky season, So
yeah.
If all of this happens, I really look forward to playing Alan Wake remastered in October. But is it going to happen in October? I don't know. These leaks seem pretty believable.
Yeah.
But it would be interesting. I mean, I guess it would be a Remedy developed thing probably. And so the fact that they would just come out with this and no one knew they were working on it would be pretty crazy. But a lot of people are hyped about this. I'm excited about it too.
Well, yeah, I was actually thinking recently, we were talking about Alan Wake, and I was thinking of going back and playing it, and then I was like, it's 11 years old. I feel like it's going to be a little rough. Yeah, I think a remaster might be the thing that might kick me into gear to give it. I've heard it is pretty amazing.
It's cool. It's about a writer, so I think that's something to be into.
Yeah, sounds like it's cool to me. All right, we're gonna move on to some more game rumors. A new Infamous game? What? A new Infamous game might be announced as soon as the PlayStation event this week, according to Special Nick on Twitter. Now I like Special Nick. He's pretty good with the rumors here. He's been pretty good
great
with his insider stuff a lot lately.
I will say he said he couldn't confirm with multiple sources, but he did say it because he's like, I love Infamous and I really hope it's true, so I'm just going to say this anyway.
Sure.
But there were other leaks that sort of backed it up too, so.
Yeah, so pretty wild. I don't think we've gotten an Infamous game since Second Son, right?
Correct. There was like a
standalone expansion thing for that, right? But that was like 2015, something like
Last
that.
Light, I think it was.
Yeah, Last Light. Yes.
Or First Light.
First Light.
Because there's Metro.
Yeah. So it's been a while since we've had an Infamous game. Especially pretty interesting considering a PS5 Infamous game would be great because I think PS4 Infamous Second Son kind of came and like launched the console.
Yeah.
So pretty cool way to show off the the new tech. Now I will say on the the flip side, who the hell is making this game? Because we know Sucker Punch is presumably might be working on Ghost of Tsushima, like another sequel or something.
Probably, yeah.
Matt, what do you think? Do you have any idea of who we might be getting for something like this? I know Sony's been kind of juggling around studios a little bit more and using talents a little bit differently than they previously did. So what's your take?
I do think that it's probably Sucker Punch. So a thing that Sony's wanted to do with PlayStation Studios is essentially grow their studio. Instead of like going, what Microsoft is doing is acquiring these studios. What Sony wants to do is continue to hire and grow their own studios and essentially have multiple teams within each studio. And so I think that's probably what they're going to be doing here with Sucker Punch. There were some rumors about another Sly Cooper game. I don't know if it was going to be a remake or if it was coming back with like a new installment or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where that would fit into this if that were the case. But I think if anyone's going to be working on Infamous, it's going to be Sucker Punch. I don't think that IP is going to be handed off to someone else. Now, Sly Cooper, maybe I could see that, but Infamous, I think, is going to stay within Sucker Punch. And I'm glad they're revisiting it because I think it's
Yeah.
time. Second Son is starting to feel a little bit outdated, especially after Spider-Man and, you know, getting another superhero game like that just feels so much more modern. It is starting to feel a little bit dated. I went back and played it a couple years ago, and it just like the gameplay loop felt old. We've kind of almost like we've just kind of moved on from that now.
Yeah.
So I do think revisiting it would be awesome. I hope it's not remasters of 1 and 2. I do hope it's a new entry because I think it deserves it. It deserves a new entry.
Also, I'm kind of sick of all these remasters and remakes right now. Like, can we get?
There are a lot going on. Yeah,
there are new games for sure. No question. But I just feel like there's so many. You know what I hate more is remakes than remasters, just because you're putting all this development time into like remaking a game. Like, good God, like do it, you know, once in a while, but my goodness, just remaster it and move on.
Yeah, there's some studios that are really good at it that I do think should just keep doing what they're doing because they're so good at it.
Yeah.
And they haven't necessarily proven that they're really good at, you know, making their own games. So I think
that makes sense.
I think that's good. But yeah, I wouldn't want to see Sucker Punch remaster or remake their own games.
Yeah, because they're so great at making new ones. Like, go ahead and make another one. But yeah, no, that made me think of that with the team thing. It made me think of Naughty Dog and how they're like building out that team for multiplayer games, which I remember Mike and I were talking about in the replay the week before.
Yeah.
About how kind of strange it is to see Naughty Dog building out a multiplayer team, and it's weird for Sony to like want to focus Naughty Dog's energy on something multiplayer when that's not really something they focus on. But again, building out different teams like and expanding the studios is cool as opposed to just farming it out to different studios and things like that. So it's cool to see them managing this way.
I think part of it is Sony is big like within their studios on culture, and they don't want to bring too many in that could change things. So they say like, you know, well, we have these great studios who are already so established and do so well. Let's just grow them.
Yep. Makes sense. Makes total sense. As opposed to the Microsoft thing, like you were saying, and being like, oh, we have all these studios, we can just farm it out to a different studio that can do it because we own all these studios.
Yeah, and that may work for them.
That works too.
I worry that if they don't stop, like if they keep acquiring new studios, it's hard to manage all of that.
It can be, I'm sure. I'm sure if anyone has the money to basically build an entire business around managing all of the studios, it would be Microsoft. But yeah, definitely a lot of work. All right, moving on. Now, you know, we haven't had a mainline or any real Mass Effect game since Andromeda, but you know what? The fans still are hopeful, and we are getting a little bit of rumored talk about Mass Effect 5. Here's the thing, Mass Effect 5, and especially one of the biggest things that was an issue with Mass Effect was kind of the engine. And so Mass Effect 5 might end up using the Unreal Engine instead of Frostbite. Now, this is pretty crazy. It's coming to us from Jeff Grubb on Twitter, another great industry leaker. EA and BioWare want production to get going in 2023, evidently, and they feel as though Frostbite might just be too far behind by 2023. That makes sense to me. But on the flip side, Grubb says that Dragon Age 4 is expected to possibly come in 2023, and that will be a Frostbite game. What are we doing here? I think as we see the proliferation and like the you know, the expansion of things like Unreal Engine and Unity and things like that, but especially Unreal, I feel like we might be kind of moving away a bit from companies using their own proprietary engines as much. That's something I keep feeling because we saw that same kind of rumor with Take-Two, with Rockstar and the GTA remasters. You know, there was talk about maybe remastering or remaking or doing things in Unreal Engine. People were talking about that, and there's talk about here Mass Effect 5 maybe using Unreal Engine. You know, obviously Frostbite might already be in development, but still we're getting to this thing where it's like these engines are so good and you can differentiate style so much within them, evidently. I mean, you look at the Unreal Engine 5 tech demo stuff, it is absolutely wild. Not to take us away from the main point, but do we think like maybe this is like the end for proprietary engines? Like this is kind of a weird move.
I think part of it has to do with the fact that video game development, like the process is getting so long now. And if you want to get games out and you're trying to hire new people for it, it's much easier to hire someone who already knows Unreal Engine because, like, let's be honest, if you're hiring a game dev, they probably know Unreal Engine. They're probably familiar with it, at least in some way.
Yep.
than it would be to bring someone in who's never worked on an EA game before and train them in how to get used to Frostbite.
Yep.
So I think that's probably a really big part of it. Also, you have to, you got to think about how like an engine like Unreal Engine and Unity and stuff like that, these are built to, like you said, work in a bunch of different ways for a bunch of different games. Frostbite, I'm sure it was, but it's being used in first-person shooters. It's being used in RPGs. It's being used in sports games. Like, it might not all work with unless the engine was built that way, which I'm sure they tried to, but Unreal Engine, the mindset they're coming from is like, this has to be like every possible game has to be able to be built in Unreal Engine.
They have a whole team purposely built around building Unreal Engine. It's massive, and the entire point is that they basically want gaming companies to use this as their engine. Whereas Frostbite was never, I'm sure, like you said, they intended to try to get it to be their next gen engine. But really, is it designed to run in all those different games in the same seamless? Like, are the physics and everything all gonna work the same or work as equally good in a sports game to an FPS to an RPG? I don't know, but I'm willing to bet less than Unreal Engine 5.
Yeah, I think we've seen that Frostbite works pretty well with FPS, but yeah,
that's their bread and butter for that. I think, yeah.
With RPG, I don't know, like Mass Effect Andromeda, I don't know.
I don't know. And could this be, partly based on Andromeda? Could they be going, hey, we're going to start this in 2023 and maybe we could get away with it, but we know now we can't just get away with like a buggy ass looking Mass Effect game because it didn't work last time. Like, right. I don't know.
It's mind-blowing that Mass Effect Andromeda released in that state. It is absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Like, how did just like NPCs melting during conversations get past testing? And like, how was that allowed to release? It's like a cyberpunk situation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it was obviously it was like not totally unplayable, but certainly to the point where, again, you're paying $60-$70 for this game. Like, give me a break. Terrible. That's mostly fixed now, and I've played it in recent years, and it's pretty good. But yeah, not a great way to come out with your game. I think one of the biggest notes to take from this is that they're talking about maybe getting production started in 2023 for a new Mass Effect. That's really, I think, one of the underlying news things here too that really stands out to me is it's like, wow, it has been a long time, and they are still not like moving along on that train. Like, I feel like they were very burned. Plus Anthem too, obviously they really put their eggs in that basket, I think, and that wasn't really necessarily what ended up hitting. There's a lot.
Yeah, I have to think most of that is due to the fact that, probably the Dragon Age 4 team is going to join them for full production once Dragon Age 4 ends. That's fair. If that game gets delayed, that probably means Mass Effect 5 is going to be pushed out even further. This game is clearly a very long way off, but deciding on what engine they're going to be using probably has to be a decision that's made pretty soon here, especially if they're in pre-production right now, figuring out certain design schemes and stuff like that.
What's
like
possible and that kind of thing.
Yeah, they're going to have to know what engine they're working in pretty soon. So
those tech demos, though, it makes me really excited to start seeing games come out in Unreal 5. And also, I really do hope we see more games using that over their own proprietary engines, just because I know for a fact that Unreal 5 is absolutely balls to the wall amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know what other people's engines are going to be like, but it's cool to see that. And I'm pretty psyched to see what people are going to start doing over the next 5 years. I think we're going to see some pretty insane games. Moving on to talk about something that may not look as insane, but is still equally loved. Development on Stardew Valley might be done. This story comes to us directly from Concerned Ape during the Stardew Valley Cup, an esports competition for Stardew Valley, which I got to say, by the way, is awesome. I was reading about this on the weekend. Such a cool concept. Concerned Ape, the sole developer and creator of Stardew Valley, says he doesn't know if the game will receive another update. He won't commit to 1.6, but he also won't say he's not going to make a 1.6 update. So I just want to say, and so he says the main point is he wants to start focusing on his next game, which he said already in another article was a top-down pixel art game. Should be, a 2D kind of similar thing to what Stardew Valley looked like. I think there's one that's going to be set in the Stardew Valley universe, but it's not going to be farming related. And then he also wants to work on a different game that's going to be the same kind of visual style, but is might be totally different. I think the main point of this, and from what I've seen from everyone, is great. That's fine.
Yeah.
The game got like 5 years of updates, a sole developer. It's like a work of love. I mean, it's been updated to the point where, I mean, most of the last updates for a long time have been stuff that most people don't even get that far in the game because there's so much end game and so much content put into this game. I mean, it's one person, yeah, and they've gone above and beyond, and it's sold like crazy. I mean, this game could have sold like crazy, and he could have been like, all right, that's it.
Yeah.
And pretty amazing to see all the effort put into it. These games aren't going to go forever. Something like Stardew Valley is not really the kind of game that is built to be updated forever. Really, it's not a games as a service. I think it makes sense. 5 years is amazing for the price that you pay.
Totally.
Free updates.
This game also has a massive modding community, so I'm not really that concerned. I'm sure he'd be fine with just kind of letting them take over the wheel as far as what updates look like going forward. I'm sure the community would be able to come out with their own major updates and keep building the game and going forward from there. So I don't think for the Stardew community, I don't think they're probably too worried about this. I think that they're just happy that they got as much as they did.
Yeah. And it's cool to see more games from Concerned Ape come out. I think a lot of people obviously know now that they're interested in seeing more from them. And you know what? Also, I think it's just important to do something that you love. I think as a game developer, we see this all the time. People who burn out because they're working on something that they just don't have the passion for anymore. It's so important, especially as a sole developer for your own game. I think obviously with this game, this has brought Concerned Ape so much enjoyment to be able to kind of work on this game. But at a certain point, time to move on, and that's totally fine as long as he keeps going at it. I think it totally makes sense. We're seeing so many more of these games now with free updates over the years, like No Man's Sky, and then we see and we talked about that, how is it profitable, and we see the same thing with Stardew Valley a little bit. All these free updates for like Minecraft free updates, 5-10 years, all these things. Terraria, it's really interesting to see this stuff and go like, is this sustainable? Can other companies do this? Or it's kind of like it sucks. I saw someone say it sucks for new indies starting up because everyone kind of expects them to basically give you 5 to 10 years of updates for free,
right?
Because that's kind of been the industry standard now. Among Us, people were like, oh, where's more Among Us stuff? Like, come on, for free, like, because that's what every other company does, and it's like, oh, the pressure's on, because you can't. If you charge for it, they'll be like, well, this person's not charging for it. It's kind of interesting to see that to become the norm. Some people, even seeing some people who are like, we're done doing Stardew Valley. It's like, you got 5 years. Just relax, for free.
Yeah. I got to be honest. If I was in his position, especially being like the sole dev, I would probably not feel super motivated after raking in a ton of cash to keep developing on this game. That I would feel like I've done all I've done. It is what it is. I'm going to move on. I'm either going to just retire because he's probably in a position where he can do something like that, or easily, just work on a new passion project. It's such an amazing position to be in, and I think we have to be thankful that we even got as much as we did from one person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome that people like this exist out there who after they make all that money will still keep developing. So really, really cool.
Yeah.
Big ups to Concerned Ape. Before we get to the last story of the day, I just want to remind you right now, if you're listening to this on a podcast app, Matt and I would really appreciate if you could give us a 5-star rating or a thumbs up on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Casts, whatever you're on. We would really, really appreciate it. And also, if you could maybe even leave a review, that'd be really awesome. Just be like, fight over who is the handsomest Groof, or, say, Matt said his sweater was purple, but it looks gray to me. I agree. It looks gray to me. Leave that review. We really, really appreciate it. And it all helps us in the algorithm.
You know what, Paul? We'll read out reviews that we get on this show.
That's great. Yeah, I would love to read out podcast reviews. So
we'll read out reviews, and if you're the first person to review the show, you'll get an extra special shout out because it hasn't been done yet on Apple Podcasts.
It is not. So we will be looking on Apple Podcasts specifically because that's what we normally look at. Also check, I don't know if you can review on Spotify, but I'll check if we can. All right. Last story of the day. The Tiny Tina's Wonderland Twitter account teased that a gameplay reveal is coming soon. PlayStation event on Thursday, perhaps? I think the more and more we see stuff about this event, the more and more it's feeling this is going to be stacked. I feel like Sony already kind of got us pretty hyped that this is going to be, basically everything but PSVR is up in the air. Anything could happen. and more we're seeing a lot of Twitters and rumors and things that games are going to be announced this week or going to be shown this week, blah, 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 blah. I think this could be quite a show. Matt, how are you feeling about this? Are you feeling hyped for this PlayStation event? And maybe some Tiny Tina's Wonderland too while we're at it?
I am absolutely feeling hyped for this event. I would totally not be shocked if this Tiny Tina's Wonderland gameplay is revealed at that event. Exactly. It would make a ton of sense.
Yep.
And I am kind of excited about this. Like, I wasn't the biggest Borderlands fan, but that was mostly because it was kind of the beginning of looter shooters. I didn't really like understand the concept, or like I couldn't get into the concept early on. I feel like I could now. And the idea of Tiny Tina's Wonderland just appeals to me more than Borderlands, with sort of the fantasy aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think that just appeals to me more. So yeah, I am kind of excited about it. Now, am I going to play the game a ton when it eventually comes out? I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe.
But I am excited to learn a little bit more about it. Let's see some gameplay and learn a little bit more.
Love it. Very, very cool. And yeah, just as a little shout out, little sneak peek here, I will say we might be streaming this event. We do not have confirmation yet. We will tell you on Wednesday if it's for sure going to happen. I think we'll know by then on that replay. But just so you know, just keep your eye out if you're going to be watching this event live. We might be streaming it, so keep your eye on our Twitch. Make sure to head over to twitch.tv/goodnightgroofs. Follow us so you can find out close to it if we're going to, and also make sure you listen to this show on Wednesday, where we will announce whether or not we will be doing it. But I thought I'd just kind of give you that little idea in your head in case we're hoping that's going to be possible for us.
The event is 4 p.m. Eastern on Thursday. If they don't have a pre-show, we'll probably, if we do it, would probably go live around 3:30.
Yeah. So pretty cool. Definitely check it out if it's going to happen, I say. But yeah, it's good to know. Just in case you're like, oh, I got to watch the Groofs on there. All right, Matt, that is going to be it for today's GG Replay. But before everyone heads out of here, just want to remind everyone, first off, happy Labor Day, or Labour Day here in Canada. But also, important to remember that if you enjoy this GG Replay, we also have a website, goodnightgroofs.com, where we have our blog, our podcast, our videos, links to all of our socials with exclusive content, TikTok and Instagram and all that kind of stuff. And also, if you really like what we do have a Patreon over at patreon.com/goodnightgroofs. And you can see any of our 3 current support tiers. $3 tier does get you early access to our weekly podcast, Game Groofs, which normally comes out on Sunday, but you can get it on Friday. And also, we do have a $1 and $5 tier as well, if you're feeling plus or minus generous from that point. Matt, do you have anything else to say before we head out of here for the day?
No, I'm off to go remaster a classic hit.
Perfect. I'm off to go do some labor. So until then, we will see everyone on Wednesday when we have a fantastic new episode of GG Replay. And also, don't forget to check out Game Groofs. If you missed it on Sunday, it just came out yesterday. Feel free to go. It's on our YouTube channel, and it is on any place you get your podcasts. Have a fantastic rest of your day, everyone, and good night, Groofs.